So thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of our masterclass. What we want to leave you with is just one simple question, which is, what is the one action step forward that you can take today? We talked about how when we're immersing ourselves in, we're putting things right into practice, that would allow us to retain 75% to 90% of the information that has been taken in the class itself. And this is why we set up these mini challenges, these mini questions throughout the class, so you're at least interacting with us during this process. So we really want to make sure that you have at least one small to big action step forward you can take today. And this could be really tiny. It could be looking up local meetups, local language meetups around your local city. It could be downloading a free application just so that you can start getting the hang of your target language. It could be signing up for a free trial that we offer at Rype. It could be any one of those. But what's important is that you take one step forward instead of just watching the lecture or watching the presentation we have and going around your day. So definitely promise us that this is a commitment that we'll make together and that you're going to make that one action step forward, because that's how you're going to be able to take your language skills to that next level. Now, remember we talked about the 20-80 principle from Paretos, how a few vital tasks, a few vital investments or time will really end up in delivering the 80% of the desired results that we have. Sometimes it's 90% of results, sometimes it's 95%. Ultimately, what we want to keep in mind is that we want to avoid as much as possible the 80% of the tasks, the time, the money that is being expended that only result in 20% of results. Now, it's easier said than done, but what we have known from research-backed studies is that there is a formula for calculating this when it comes to learning a language. And what they found with the research is that coaching and accountability and immersion learning is what delivers 80% of the results. And this is why you see people that are going around, flying to another country and coming back in just a couple of months with conversation fluency. It's because they've been immersed. They've been speaking with real native speakers on a constant basis, and they've had that daily immersion that you simply can't get from most of these programs or classes. And ironically, these classes and programs tend to become the most expensive option, which really doesn't allow most of us to be able to gain access to it. And it often takes the most time as well. And then you've got apps and books and YouTube, channels that are affordable, channels that are free, but you get what you pay for in most of these cases, and they generally don't tend to be the most effective, and they take up the most time in order to learn the actual language. Now, in terms of average time to reach fluency, what we've also found is that these mixtures of coaching and immersion, because of the effectiveness of these methods, they contribute in terms of 80% of results in how little time it takes you to actually get the language. And the same applies for classes and programs, apps, books, YouTube. So there is a correlation between how effective a method is and how long it'll take you time to learn it. So if coaching and immersion and if learning a language, if these programs are much more effective than, let's say, apps or books or just watching YouTube videos, what is the real problem? Well, here's the major problem that we have facing us today, is that the rise of these technology tools has fundamentally changed the way we communicate and the way we learn new things. But the issue is the education and the traditional ways of learning a language via language schools has not shifted at all. It's stayed the same. It's remained stale, and it's remained the traditional conservative way of learning a language. And yes, curriculums have shifted back and forth, but the fundamental core model of a language school is remaining the same. Now, for those of you guys that have taken language classes in these traditional language schools in the past, you've already experienced the pain of needing to pay this upfront cost of a language school without really understanding why this is the case. And this is something that we want to be very transparent with you in terms of how the model actually worked and what we're trying to do to reinvent that model. So since the beginning of language schools, what's happened is they've been charging students thousands of dollars just to gain one section of what they're trying to learn. So let's take you're learning Spanish and you are a beginner. Well, you would have to originally fork up thousands of dollars just to learn beginner Spanish. And after a couple of months, if you feel like you are now ready to go into intermediate or beginner intermediate, you would then have to fork up thousands of more dollars just to be able to switch to that curriculum because it's a completely different program. So what happens is language schools would cost thousands and thousands of dollars for students, where they're only paying teachers 1/10 to 1/8 of the cost that they're making from students, and they would keep the rest of the actual sales that's been generated. And we'll go into why this is the model, because language schools do have more upfront costs that a online solution like Rype will not. And what we've done at Rype is completely reinvented the model where we're charging a fraction of the cost that most schools would be charging for students. And we would share that cost with the teachers. In fact, teachers make a lot more than they would because they're not required to travel. They have more students that they can always go back to at our platform. And we felt that this was a fair way to reinvent the model where we're taking less of the revenue, but we're able to charge students significantly less, therefore being able to attract more students on a volume basis. And the reason why we can do that, and going back to why language schools need to charge so much, is that unlike language schools, Rype connects you with teachers directly online. These are fully vetted professional teachers that we've handpicked. And we don't have the overhead costs, the admin staffing costs, the insurance costs, the building costs, the tax issues, like all of these different issues that a physical language school will need to incur. We don't have that, which means we can charge significantly less for the same value, if not more value, that a language school will offer, help teachers make more, but also create a great business because we're able to attract the number of students that we want to have. And ultimately what that comes down to is simple, which is more value for 1/10 of the price of a language school. And here's exactly how we differ. So compared to a language school, we don't have a tuition setup fee, which you're required to pay for most language schools. We have a completely free trial, 14 days, where you can easily cancel or switch at any time. The payment model is flat, where it's just a flat monthly fee versus a language school that charges you upfront and you have to change and continue to pay for another program once you go from beginner to intermediate. For us, whether you go from beginner to advanced, there is no additional cost, right? If you can go from beginner to advanced in 6 months, we're not going to charge you for a new program. What you get is what you pay for. And that ultimately leads us on a cost per lesson to be 1/10 of the price of any language school. You get daily lessons, and the time required to learn is significantly less than any traditional language school that's out there. So when we took a look at the old way of learning a language, which is the traditional way that's been the same for hundreds and hundreds of years now, what we wanted to introduce is a completely new way to take advantage of the technology and the communications that we have. And this is why we set upon to create a solution that offers quality private language lessons at a fair price where you can learn anytime, anywhere. And we say fair price because what's happening right now in the marketplace is truly unfair, not just for students who are required to pay 10 times more than what they should be, and also teachers because they're not getting paid what they deserve. So we talked about what are some of the major factors that may lead you to quit. We talked about commuting, we talked about cost, lack of time, accountability, and motivation. And we really reverse engineered all of these major factors of why thousands of people that we surveyed eventually quit. And we created the perfect solution that allows these three major factors to combine that makes up Rype. So the first is premium teachers. What makes us different than any other language platform that's out there is that we have a fully vetted teacher hiring process where we go through a live one-on-one video interview via video chat, and we have a dedicated team that works through all the people that have applied with us, and we go through this live process with them. And the reason why we've done that is that we've realized that the major difference between someone that is just hired through a resume and someone that actually goes through a live one-on-one interview is massive, because there are certain things that just cannot be measured when you're looking at someone's resume. Just like you would need to go through a live one-on-one interview process when you're going in for a job, we treat it the same process. We want only the best teachers that we can offer for our students. And that's why every little things like punctuality, personality, their story, their motive, all of that is taken into factor. It's not just the experience that matters for our teachers at Rype. And this is what makes us fundamentally different than other language platforms where they're really having an automated process just so that they can get as many teachers as possible. The second factor that makes up Rype is built for busy people. And compared to a language school where you have to commute, where you're required to stay there for 3 to 5 hours each session, which, let's face it, not all of us can really sacrifice what we have in our daily lives just to be able to sit in a classroom for 5 hours. What we wanted to reinvent was, how can we provide the most quality language lessons or the quality learning experience in as short as a time as possible, so that no matter how busy you are, you can still make time for it. And we've achieved that through many factors. Number one, all the learning process is online, which means you can take it anywhere you go. You can take it on your mobile phone as well. You can have it while you are at lunch during work. You can have it late at night. Second is that because we have teachers that span all around the world that are in different time zones, you can book lessons 20 hours a day and 7 days a week. So no matter how busy you are, you're able to find someone that's going to be available even at the times that you feel is going to be very occupied. And you won't be able to get that through a language school because generally their hours are 9 to 5. So even if it's at 1 a.m. for you, it will be 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. for someone else around the world that's one of our teacher communities. And then last but not least, the lessons that are offered at Rype are half an hour versus 4 hours. And you can certainly book more than 30 minutes, but we have that option where you are limited to that 30 minutes so that anyone will be able to find 30 minutes in their schedule, which is possible for most of us. 30 minutes is the same time of watching an episode of Friends, is the same time of us cooking breakfast, and keep in mind that you can do both at the same time. And then last but not least, which we're incredibly excited about, is fair prices in the language learning industry. It's time that a solution out there is offering fair prices for teachers and for students. And this is really what is really going to be able to make a big difference and dent in the language learning industry, where we're offering 1/10 of the cost of any language school out there that allows us to provide even more value for that price. So quick, easy steps of how it works. Number one, if you are interested in trying out Rype today, you can simply activate your free trial by going into our start page, and you simply pick a language, pick what program you want, and select a plan to get started. Second step is you can easily book a lesson in seconds and choose the teacher that you want at the time that you are available. And that's it. From right there, you can start speaking a new language in seconds, and you'll be able to make major improvements that you would not have. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to go through a major process. You can start speaking a new language as early as today. Now, I just want to share some stories that we've had from real students of ours that have had major success and just are having an incredible experience. A lot of them have never learned a language online. A lot of them have never learned a language, period. So this is a completely new process for most people. So if you're listening to this and you're not quite sure how learning a language will work or how learning a language will work, period, all of the students that we're about to share with you have experienced the same thought process that you're facing now. So we have Taya Roxon, who is the CEO of UYD Media, says, with zero knowledge in Spanish, I reached conversation fluent proficiency using Rype in 3.5 months. Then we have Emma Howes, who says, I really have noticed incredible results almost immediately in my comfort level speaking. My teachers teach me songs, we practice the alphabets, and they actually remember everything about my life. Amazing experience. We have Lawrence Walkings, the CEO of GreatBlackSpeakers.com, says, I hear myself getting better just from my 30-minute per day conversation session with Rype. I love the service and my teachers, highly recommend it. We've got Gloria Antanmo, who is a famous travel blogger at theblogabroad.com, says, what I love about Rype, what I love about my Rype lessons is that with my crazy travel schedule, I can choose a time that works for me, and there will always be someone who can accommodate it. Nathan Johnson from Movunu, who are doing amazing things, we have another testimonial here. And we have Brett Berkey, who's the business development at Paperstack, says that Rype is a no-brainer. If you want to take your language learning skills seriously, give Rype a shot. It's convenient, it's priced well, and it's fun. And once you start, you look forward to it. So these are just some of the highlights, guys, of some of the students that have provided these amazing success stories with us and these reviews. And we have thousands of students now that have reached fluency in over 37 different countries that are sharing and talking about their experience on social media, using Twitter, using Facebook, using YouTube, and we're really getting the word out there. Within the 300 interviews that we've had, our average rating is 4.7 out of 5 for the students that have decided to try Rype out. So this is a little bit about what we offer at Rype, and what we're going to be introducing in the next section is answering some of the most frequently asked questions that you have so that we can really help you make the right decision.